Good afternoon. The last several videos, obviously, I have been reflecting on how the Catholic Church fulfills the four marks we expect of the true church, that is, the church founded by Christ. It must be, according to the Creed, one, holy, Catholic, and apostolic. So far, we focused on one, holy, and Catholic, which leaves us one mark left to discuss today, and that is the church's apostolicity. Phew, I said it without stumbling. The church is apostolic. There are a few ways to think about this. The first has to do with, obviously, the apostles. That's where the term comes from. Jesus clearly set aside leadership. He said he chose from his many disciples 12, whom he called apostles and whom he charged with a special mission of oversight and teaching and with spreading of the gospel. We see this in Christ's teaching, that he established a church with a hierarchy and with the apostles at their head. And it is also clear from the early church that the early church understood this to be something to pass on. This wasn't something that was for the 12 and it was over. Right away in Acts, which is pretty much a continuation of the Gospel of Luke, Peter stands up in the midst of the apostles and says that it is not right that we be 11, given that Judas had betrayed Christ. And they proceed to elect Matthias as Judas's replacement. So right there we have a model from the church from the beginning, not only that the apostles had a special mission, but that with the passage of an apostle, there are others who come to take his place. And it's not just Matthias, of course. We have others who are bishops already in the New Testament. Paul lists in a few of his letters requirements for a good bishop, a good successor of the apostles. And when we look at the documents of the early church, we see, for instance, St. Clement, who is Peter's successor in Rome, he speaks of his authority as Peter's successor over other apostles as well in other sees. He says in his preeminent see of Rome. So already in the first 100 years after Christ, not only do we have apostles, but successors of the apostles. And all through the history of the church, there is this idea that through the laying on of hands, this apostolic charism is passed on. And this is the case in the first centuries. This is the case in the medieval period. And it is something that the church takes very seriously today. There's a remarkable website that deserves to be checked out. It's Catholic-hierarchy.org. And it's very interesting to plug in the name of any Catholic bishop in the world today. And what you'll find on this site is that you can trace back his apostolic lineage. And obviously the records are not perfect for 2,000 years, but if, for instance, I were to type in the name of Bishop Battersby, who is the bishop of my diocese here in La Crosse, Wisconsin, you can trace him back to who consecrated him and who consecrated his consecrator. And this is something that the church takes seriously enough that there are records showing this apostolic lineage, something that we see, again, all through the history of the church. Now, where does this authority come from? Some would argue among the Protestants that it's a matter of popular acclaim. But in fact, you look at a story like St. Ambrose from the 4th century. He was a public official in Milan, and during the Arian crisis, as a public official, a new convert to Christianity, there was a need for a leader, and the people popularly acclaimed him bishop. And it was because of their acclaim that he was selected. But he didn't become bishop through their acclaim. He became bishop by thereupon being ordained to the diaconate, the priesthood, and finally being consecrated bishop. So there's a difference between popular acclaim, which is how some Protestant clergy become apostles, and the laying out of hands, which is something that the church has taken so seriously. The other thing that I will touch on very briefly, because I'm almost out of time, is simply the age of the church. It is the Catholic Church that continues to pass on through its apostolic lineage the perennial teaching of the church. Every other Protestant church has modified Christ's teaching in some way. Only the Catholic Church has taken Christ's teaching seriously enough to stand out of step with secular society and seem outmoded, all in faithfulness to Christ from apostolic times. That's all I have time for today. God bless.